A Second Chance at Love. Previous episodes are available in playlist. A link is given in the video description. Episode 68. Lobbying. Roxanne was rather offended by his sudden body contact, and the smile on her face became dark. She lowered her eyes and stepped back, slowly moving away from his hand. Jack frowned for a moment when he felt her uneasiness. He quickly removed his hand and pretended nothing had happened. The research institute played a huge part in successfully developing the new medication. How about this? Lunch is on me today, plus everyone will receive a cash reward from me this month. Jack's words made it sound like he was closely related to the research institute. Roxanne felt he was slightly crossing the line and wanted to decline him. But the employees were already cheering. Thus, she thought it would not be nice to spoil the atmosphere. Mr. Damaris is so generous. Thank you, Mr. Damaris. We will definitely work harder from now onwards. One by one, the Research Institute staff began to offer Jack words of flattery. Roxanne felt slightly annoyed as she watched their admiration for Jack. Well, I hope everyone will give me the honor. Let's carpool and set off now, shall we? Jack grinned from ear to ear, looking all enthusiastic. He then reached out and wanted to hold Roxanne's arm. If you don't mind, Ms. Jarvis, you can take my car. Roxanne turned sideways, avoiding his hand. She had an awkward smile on her face. I think we should first discuss our profit-sharing model. Jack arched his brow, seemingly uninterested in what she said. What's the hurry? This isn't our first collaboration. Don't you trust me? Please don't worry, for I'll ensure the Research Institute gets what it deserves. Let's not talk about work on such a joyous occasion. We should relax and take a break. While he was speaking, a few employees had begun to make their way out. Roxanne was unhappy, but she could only agree. All right, let's go then. I'll drive my car so that I can help to fetch some people. With that, she called a few staff who did not drive and left with them. Jack watched Roxanne's retreating figure and then lowered his eyes. His gaze turned grim as he looked at his hand, which she had rejected twice. It was noon when the group reached the hotel where Jack made reservations. Mr. Damaris is such a rich and generous man. He actually reserved the best hotel in Horrington for our celebration, one of the employees complimented with a smile. Jack was walking alongside Roxanne when he heard the compliment. He smiled and waved a dismissal hand. All of you are important contributors. It's only fitting that I choose the best. Enjoy yourselves, and don't stand on ceremony with me. Jack arranged for a feast at the top level of the hotel. Delicious food and wine were served, and soothing live music enhanced the atmosphere. Several staff were excited as it was their first time having a meal in such a luxurious place. Throughout the meal, people came to give Jack a toast to thank him for the treat. After toasting Jack, they turned to Roxanne, wanting to give her a toast too. Roxanne rejected all offers, saying that she was not feeling well. Enjoy yourselves, everyone. Today's celebration is the first, and for sure, not the last. There'll be plenty of opportunities for us to collaborate. I promise our subsequent celebrations will be grander with each successful collaboration. Jack raised his wine glass and said to everyone. Sounds of cheers erupted as soon as Jack finished speaking. Roxanne should be ecstatic about the successful development of the new medication. But as she sat and watched how Jack acted like he was the protagonist of the success story, she could not bring herself to feel happy. The way Jack behaved did not look like he was celebrating. He was trying to win over everyone's hearts. Outsiders might get the impression that Jack was the person in charge of the research institute. Could not wait any longer. What's wrong? I noticed that you did not drink any wine. Jack suddenly looked at the person beside him and asked concernedly, "Are you unwell? What's the matter? Would you like me to take a look?" As he spoke, his hand reached out to take Roxanne's wrist. Roxanne pursed her lips and put on a weak smile. "There's no need. I'm a little tired as I did not sleep well last night. Please carry on and have fun with them. I'll take a rest for a while." She calmly retreated and avoided contact with Jack. She gave a light nod before turning around to leave. Displeasure hit Jack as he stared at her back. The hickey on her neck was the answer to why she did not sleep well last night. "I can't wait any longer. I must make a move quickly." After leaving the banquet, Roxanne headed to a nearby cafe for coffee and relaxation. But at the thought of Jack's recent attitude, she felt annoyed again. Just then, a message came from Lucian asking about her. "How are you feeling? Go home and rest if you are tired. The research institute matters can be settled some other time." Roxanne felt warm when she saw his care and concern. But she could not help being grouchy in her reply as she was upset with Jack's behavior. "So, you knew I'll be tired today, hey? But it's okay. The medication was successfully developed, and we're celebrating outside now." Lucian frowned slightly as he saw Roxanne's reply. He texted back, "Is Jack there too?" Roxanne became more frustrated when Jack was mentioned. "He's the one who initiated the celebration. I couldn't reject him as the staff in the research institute were in high spirits." Roxanne's reply clearly showed her displeasure toward Jack, though she did not directly say so. Lucian, however, was concerned about something else. "Did you drink?" Roxanne pulled a face and replied, "They're drinking, but I'm not in the mood." As soon as she sent the message, Lucian called. Roxanne answered it. "What's the matter? Are you unwell? Do you want me to go over and fetch you?" Lucian's voice was warm and caring. Roxanne sighed softly. "I was a bit uncomfortable in the morning, but I'm much better now." Hearing that, Lucian furrowed his brows puzzledly. "What's wrong then? Is it because of my mother? What did she say to you again?" Not wanting Lucian to misunderstand, Roxanne hurriedly explained, "It's not that. It's because of Jack." Roxanne could not help feeling upset as she brought up the topic. She could not do anything much to an outsider who was getting close to her employees. She felt a loss of authority as the person in charge of the research institute. This made her look bad as a leader. Lucian became unhappy when he heard Jack was upsetting Roxanne. "What is Jack up to now? Don't be bothered by him. I can see that he's caring toward you, but it remains to be seen whether he has ulterior motives." Roxanne still felt discouraged. She hesitantly asked Lucian, "Am I incompetent at managing staff?" It seemed like the research institute became a mess after Colby left. She was doing some self-reflection while drinking coffee earlier. The truth was she was a relatively new member of the research institute, thus, she did not know the employees well. Furthermore, she focused solely on her research and neglected her relations with her colleagues. In the past, Colby helped her maintain relations with the employees. After Colby was caught, she started drifting apart from them. That was the reason why Jack was able to win their hearts so easily. Lucian's expression turned solemn when he heard that. "Why did you say so?" Roxanne felt a bit embarrassed to speak her thoughts. But she managed to find the courage to do so, as Lucian was the audience. "I felt that during this period, the employees hit it off better with Jack than me. The situation looks like he's the person in charge instead of me." "What do you think?" Needless to say, Lucian instantly noticed the discontent and guilt laced in Roxanne's voice. "Jack even said he'd issue bonuses to my staff in his name. I had already considered doing it myself, but he beat me to the announcement. After that, I was just too embarrassed to turn him down. Will the staff think that Jack treats them better than I do? Then again, our research institute is only collaborating with Damaris Group," the latter muttered. She hadn't been able to shake off the nagging feeling that something was off, so she had no choice but to discuss it with Lucian. After hearing Roxanne's worries, the man softened his gaze and comforted her. "You haven't done anything wrong. He's the one who has crossed the line. Your talent and passion lie in the medical field, so there's no need to worry about the management aspect. Feel free to come to me if you ever need any assistance. I'll be your advisor." "What should I do now, then?" Roxanne asked, knowing she could rely on Lucian. Naturally, the man was more than happy to help. "Have you guys ironed out the profit-sharing agreement?" "I told him we should talk about that first, but he turned it down," Roxanne replied as she shook her head. "In that case, you should find an opportunity to draft a detailed profit-sharing contract. Make sure all the terms and conditions are clearly stated. If you're still worried, I can check the draft when you're done." "Sure. I'll let him know as soon as possible," Roxanne piped up, sounding much more relaxed now that she had Lucian's advice and support. "I'm sorry I have to trouble you again." Lucian chuckled. "It's an honor to serve you. Seeing Roxanne become wary of Jack suits me just fine. It sure beats seeing them getting closer and closer. After all, I'm the only one she needs. However, I'd still like to manage the company myself. Can you teach me if you have the time?" Roxanne asked cautiously. Lucian has been single-handedly managing Farwell Group all these years, so there's no doubt his management skills are top-notch. It'd certainly be a weight off my shoulders if he's willing to guide me. To Roxanne's delight, Lucian agreed to it without hesitation. "I'll do my best. Additionally, your secretary can also learn a thing or two from Caden. You didn't have many managerial opportunities while overseas, and I don't think she has any experience, either. Therefore, it'd be good for her to learn from Caden and help relieve some of your burdens." Roxanne nodded her head in agreement. "Yes. I'll talk to her about it." The couple then went on to chat about the contract details when a commotion suddenly broke out at the door. With that, Roxanne promptly ended the conversation with Lucian and hung up her phone. The next second, Jack appeared in the cafe, reeking of alcohol. "How are you feeling, he asked as he strode in and sat near Roxanne. After glancing at the closed door and the tipsy Jack, Roxanne immediately put her guard up. I'm much better now. Thanks for your concern, Mr. Damaris. In response, Jack smiled and casually undid his two collar buttons, his gaze shifting from the aroma lamp in the room to Roxanne. Feeling flustered by being stared at so intensely, the latter forced herself to stay calm and changed the topic to something work-related. I'd like to confirm the terms of our cooperation now, Mr. Damaris. What do you think? Unfortunately, Jack refused to play along. I've had a bit to drink tonight, so discussing such important matters wouldn't be appropriate. Besides, didn't I say tonight is for us to relax and have fun? Let's talk about work another time. Detached Roxanne furrowed her brows. In the past, Jack and I had only ever talked about work or medical matters when we hung out together, so what's with this change? Arg. I don't want to talk about anything else but our collaboration. In that case, let's go over the content first. We can draw up the contract another day, Roxanne suggested, still with a polite smile on her face. In Jack's drunken haze, he frowned and slammed his hand down on the table. Is that all we can talk about between us? As Roxanne met Jack's gaze in silence, alarm bells began ringing in her head. We're partners, aren't we? Shouldn't we be talking about work? Are you saying we can only be co-workers, Ms. Jarvis? Jack retorted as his eyes glowed with anger. Even though it was an ambiguous question, it didn't take long before Roxanne guessed what the man was getting at. That, however, left her utterly perplexed. Hey? All this while, I've treated Jack like a colleague, so why would he develop such feelings for me? Just as Roxanne began to doubt her judgment, Jack's voice rang out, albeit with a note of bitterness. Since I first saw you at the medical consultation, I've had a lot of admiration for you. Not only was I in awe of your medical skills, but I was also touched by how much you cared for the young and old. Whenever we met, I always asked myself how great it'd be if I could have an incredible woman like yourself by my side. It'd be even better if I could shower you with love. Upon hearing that and seeing the fondness in Jack's eyes, Roxanne reeled in shock. I can't believe Jack has romantic feelings for me. When did that happen? Why have I never noticed that before? After stealing another peek at the closed door, Roxanne turned her attention back to the drunk man. You've had too much to drink, Mr. Damaris. I'll pretend not to have heard any of this. I'm not drunk. I meant every word I said. Jack said affectionately. Alas, when he tried to grab Roxanne's hand, the latter dodged him by taking her cup of coffee and pretending to sip from it. Needless to say, Jack was dismayed. I was attracted to your professionalism and gentleness toward all living things, and I've always thought that we made a great match. Think about it. Aren't I the best person to discuss medical-related matters with? By then, Roxanne was so stunned that she couldn't stop her hand from trembling. No wonder it feels like Jack's attitude has been getting increasingly strange. I can't believe it's because of this. I know you have 2 kids, so you have more factors to consider when choosing a partner, Jack continued sincerely. Trust me. You have nothing to worry about because I adore them. As long as you're willing to be with me, I'll love them as my own. Even if they're your children with Lucian, I wouldn't mind one bit." After hearing Jack mention Archie and Benny's parentage, Roxanne tightened her grip around her cup and glanced at him. The next second, however, she quickly regained her composure. "Wait a minute. He brought that up only because he had read the public statement issued by Farwell Group a while back. Okay. I feel better knowing that." With that, Roxanne set her cup down and stared calmly at the man before her. When she finally spoke, her voice was cold and detached. "I appreciate your kindness, Mr. Damaris. However, I've only ever regarded you as a great coworker and business partner. I'm afraid I can't reciprocate your feelings. If you wish to continue our partnership, please don't bring this matter up again. We did not make any progress." A cold look flashed past Jack's eyes when he heard her reject him firmly, but he was quick to suppress it. "I'm serious about this, Roxanne. We need to date each other if we want to truly maximize our potential. Don't you want to develop your career in the medical field?" Jack pleaded earnestly with an expectant look in his eyes. However, his ambitious confession only scared Roxanne even more. "I do want to develop my career, but not like this. You've had too much to drink, Mr. Damaris. Let's end this conversation here." Roxanne was about to get up and leave when Jack let out a wry chuckle. "I knew it. I knew you would reject me, Roxanne. I just didn't think you'd do so without at least giving me a chance. Is being with me really that bad? I don't even know how Lucian is better than me." Roxanne closed her eyes and calmed herself down before replying coldly, "This has nothing to do with Lucian. I simply don't have feelings for you. Still, I would like to thank you for not resorting to nasty methods like Colby did." She then walked right out of the door without looking back. Jack narrowed his eyes as he watched her disappear from sight. He then grabbed a handful of coffee beans and stuffed them into his mouth. The look in his eyes cleared up a little as he chewed on the coffee beans. "I thought this would be all I needed to do to make Roxanne a part of my family, but it seems I was wrong. Roxanne won't comply unless I use force. I can't believe she actually thanked me for not using nasty methods like Colby. I gave you a chance to make a choice, Roxanne, so don't blame me for what I might do in the future." Jack had an icy cold look on his face as he stared at the steaming pot of coffee on the table. Roxanne waved goodbye at the staff, who had yet to leave, as she walked out of the cafe. "I don't know how I'll face Jack after saying all of those things to him. Our partnership is still ongoing, so I can't turn my back on him just yet." After making her way downstairs with a worried frown on her face, Roxanne noticed a Bentley with a familiar-looking license plate parked nearby. The window slowly rolled down as she shifted her gaze toward it, and Lucian's face came into view a few seconds later. "What are you doing here?" Feeling relieved, Roxanne quickly made her way over. Lucian got out of the car and opened the door for her like a chivalrous gentleman. "I knew you came here to see Jack, so I have to make a move as well," he replied in the most matter-of-fact tone possible. Had this conversation taken place in the past, Roxanne would have told Lucian that he was overreacting. However, after hearing what Jack said earlier, she felt that he had come at just the right time. "I'm glad to see that you weren't lying when you told me you didn't drink," Lucian said as he closed her car door and made his way over to the driver's seat. Roxanne recalled what happened earlier when he started the car, but she didn't feel like talking about it. Lucian had noticed something off about her the moment she stepped out the door earlier. Realizing that his words didn't exactly cheer her up, Lucian's expression gradually grew solemn as he asked, "What happened? Did your conversation with Jack turn unpleasant?" The look on Roxanne's face changed the moment she heard him mention Jack. Unsure of what to tell him, she decided to brush it off as casually as possible. He refused to talk about work, so we didn't make any progress with the negotiation. Do not take it to heart. Lucian arched an eyebrow slightly in response. He knew Roxanne was hiding something from him when she paused briefly. Why would he refuse to talk about work? Isn't it better to finalize a contract that would bring him profits as soon as possible? Lucian asked calmly in an attempt to go with the flow. Roxanne lowered her gaze as she replied, "He had been drinking and felt he was in no condition to discuss business." "Jack has been drinking?" Lucian narrowed his eyes as he said, "Most deals are closed over drinks. Jack is the heir of the Damaris family, so I'm sure he must have closed plenty of deals over drinks by now. He must have had some other reason for refusing to discuss business with you." Roxanne's eyes went wide as she recalled what happened earlier. She couldn't bring herself to tell him that their negotiation failed because she turned down Jack's confession. While she did not have feelings for Jack, she believed that a confession was a private thing, so she didn't want to reveal it to Lucian. Roxanne eyed him cautiously as she said, "Maybe he didn't want to discuss business while he was in a celebratory mood earlier. I'll go see him again tomorrow at Damaris Group. Would you have time to come with me?" She didn't know how she would face Jack after what happened earlier. Besides, she also needed Lucian to help check the details of the contract. Naturally, Lucian wouldn't say no to her request. While he was displeased with her hiding the truth from him, he was willing to forget about that since she wanted him to go meet Jack with her. With that, the topic of their conversation shifted toward the contract that they would be signing with Jack tomorrow. As Elias and Sonia had yet to return to the Farwell residence, the three kids were huddled around Catalina and telling her their stories from kindergarten. Catalina couldn't stop laughing as the kids presented those stories in a really humorous and adorable manner. The three kids quickly turned around when they saw Lucian and Roxanne come in through the front door. "Mommy! Daddy!" Roxanne's lips curled into a relieved smile as she bent over to hug them. "Have you kids been good today?" Three kids nodded profusely in response. "Yeah, we have. They have all been behaving themselves very well today. They even helped me out with the chores," Catalina added with a smile. Roxanne couldn't help but wonder if she was worrying too much about them since they arrived a week before she did. "Let's go have dinner," Lucian said in a deep voice. "Don't we need to wait for your parents?" Roxanne asked in confusion. "My dad texted me earlier and said he'd be eating out with my mom, so we can go ahead and eat," Lucian replied while showing her his phone. Roxanne breathed a sigh of relief when she saw the text from Elias. She also had a feeling that Elias was trying to help them out. He knew that the atmosphere would be incredibly tense if they had dinner with Sonia around, so he brought her out to let them dine in peace. Roxanne felt thankful when she realized he was doing it for her and the kids. Lucian wrapped an arm around her shoulder and said with a reassuring look in his eyes, "They'll move out in a few days. Don't take anything that my mom says to heart, okay?" Just let me know if she gives you any trouble, and I'll talk to her myself." Roxanne pursed her lips and smiled in response. "I know. You'll have a lot to deal with, though. My attitude toward you in the past is why things are tense between you two. I'm the cause of my mom's misunderstanding, so I should be the one to fix it," Lucian said solemnly. "Feel safer." Roxanne felt touched when she heard that. The atmosphere was heartwarming as they had dinner without Sonia around. That was the first time Lucian didn't need to leave in a hurry after dinner, so the kids could chat with both their parents until it was late at night. While the kids were having a great time, Roxanne wasn't in the mood to play with them, and Lucian still had some work to do. They too tucked the kids in before returning to the study and the bedroom respectively. They did it so naturally that it felt as though they had been living together for a long time. The bedroom was still empty by the time Roxanne stepped out of the shower, so she figured he was still working in the study. Seeing as it was quite late, Roxanne figured she would advise him to get some rest. She was about to step out the door when her phone started ringing on the nightstand. Roxanne turned around and made her way over to pick up the phone. Seeing Jack's name on the caller ID reminded her of what he said earlier, so she wasn't sure if she should answer his call. However, it didn't seem like Jack was going to hang up anytime soon as the phone simply continued ringing. Roxanne forcefully suppressed her reluctance and answered the call. "What is it, Mr. Damaris? It's really late now. Sorry, am I disturbing you? I didn't want to call you this late at night, but I felt the need to apologize for what happened earlier," Jack said apologetically. Roxanne frowned in confusion when she heard that. What's with Jack's sudden change in attitude? Not wanting to make things awkward, she replied with a soft chuckle, "It's fine. You had a little too much to drink earlier, so I'll just pretend I didn't hear that." Jack breathed a sigh of relief. "That's good to hear. I wasn't planning on saying that after I found out about your relationship with Mr. Farwell. Since we have been working together for a long time, I figured I'd just treat you as a business partner. However, I got a little too carried away today, and it just slipped. I'm sorry I lost my composure earlier. I didn't scare you, did I? Why does it sound like he's confessing to me again?" Roxanne frowned at the thought of that and said coldly, "No. You just said some things that you shouldn't have, that's all. If you truly are sorry, then please stop bringing this up in the future." The look in Jack's eyes grew cold when he heard that, but he maintained a cautious tone as he said, "All right, I'll keep that in mind. By the way, you mentioned a couple of times about our profit-sharing model. It's true that we should get that settled as soon as possible. I can't believe I got so carried away that I forgot about it." Roxanne felt a little better when he mentioned work. "In that case, how about we meet up to discuss that tomorrow, Mr. Damaris?" Since Jack had wanted to see her anyway, he agreed to her request without any hesitation whatsoever. "Sure thing. I'll go see you at the Research Institute tomorrow." Loyal since he would be joining her in meeting Jack tomorrow, Lucian didn't bother asking her too much about it. The two then went to bed in each other's arms. Roxanne felt it was a little inappropriate at first, but felt it was nothing compared to what they did yesterday night. With that in mind, she lay obediently in his arms and fell asleep shortly after. The two of them got up early the next morning, and Lucian drove her to the Research Institute. While waiting for Jack to show up, they went through the terms of the contract together. With Lucian's guidance, Roxanne was able to be more confident about the details of the contract. Jack arrived at Roxanne's office at around 9 in the morning. The look on his face turned gloomy when he saw Roxanne sitting on a single cushion couch while Lucian sat on a longer one next to hers. Lucian was in a relaxed posture and seemed to be discussing something with Roxanne. Although the two of them were sitting on separate couches, their interactions looked very intimate. "Hello, Mr. Damaris," Roxanne greeted him with a smile when she noticed him standing there. With Lucian around, she was able to relax and interact with Jack more naturally. Roxanne agreed to it after giving it some thought. The two then chose a time to meet before ending the call. Lucian happened to come in at the time, so he saw her putting her phone down. "Who were you talking to this late at night?" he asked with a frown. "Mr. Damaris called to make an appointment to discuss the contract tomorrow. I was planning on meeting him at Damaris Group at first, but since he's partially responsible for this delay, we chose to meet at the Research Institute instead," Roxanne replied evasively. Given what happened between them, Roxanne figured it would be safer to meet him in her own territory instead. After taking a second to regain his composure, Jack flashed her a smile before shifting his gaze toward Lucian. "What a coincidence, Mr. Farwell. I didn't know you would be here too. Ms. Jarvis and I have some business to discuss, though. If possible, could you perhaps—" Jack was trying to politely ask Lucian to leave, but Lucian cut him off with a warning gaze before he could finish his sentence. "No, it's not possible. I don't think there's anything between you and Roxanne that I shouldn't know." Jack's expression tensed up instantly. "It's about a partnership between Damaris Group and this research institute. In that case, there's no need for me to leave. Farwell Group is not involved in the medical field, so knowing the details of your partnership won't result in any conflicts of interest. Besides, you should have faith in Roxanne's integrity," Lucian replied nonchalantly. Jack's face clouded over when he realized Lucian wasn't going to leave. "Will you be contributing anything to this conversation, then?" Lucian arched an eyebrow in response before shifting his gaze toward Roxanne. Roxanne let out a helpless sigh when she noticed the rising tension between Lucian and Jack, but she was not about to take Jack's side in this situation. "I'm sorry I didn't tell you this in advance. I'm not that knowledgeable when it comes to business, so Mr. Farwell is here as my consultant." She then turned toward Lucian to see if he was satisfied with her reply. Feeling satisfied, Lucian gave her a nod in response. Jack frowned slightly and let out a sarcastic chuckle. "You're willing to lower yourself and become Ms. Jarvis's consultant? Now I see why she's so loyal to you, Mr. Farwell." "It is an honor for me to be Roxanne's consultant," Lucian replied. It was unclear if he genuinely meant that, though. Not wanting the two to start fighting over her, Roxanne changed the topic by saying, "All right, let's just get down to business. It'll be lunchtime if we waste any more time chit-chatting." Jack nodded and sat down on the single cushion couch in front of her. He looked like he meant business as he crossed his arms and said, "Since you wanted to see me so urgently, I'm assuming Mr. Farwell has given you some bright ideas. In that case, why don't you go ahead and speak your mind?" Demand. Roxanne subconsciously glanced at Lucian. He nodded at her. She completely relaxed after receiving his affirmation. Then, she shared the result of their initial discussion earlier. This is my 2 cents. Damaris Group provided us with the medicinal herbs and distribution channel for this collaboration. However, technology-wise, the credits belong almost entirely to the Research Institute. I can even say that the Research Institute is the real owner of this core technology in developing this new medicine. For this reason, and considering our experiences working together with other groups, the profit should be divided into a 20-80 split. Our Research Institute will take the larger portion of the earnings. She was the person in charge of the Research Institute, after all. Although Roxanne wasn't sufficiently familiar with that aspect, she still commanded an extraordinary presence. A hint of admiration glinted in Lucian's eyes as he listened to her speech and took in her serious demeanor. On the other hand, Jack thought his ears were playing tricks on him. He forced himself to keep up his elegant facade. "Excuse me. I didn't hear you clearly." "Ms. Jarvis, you were saying," she reiterated calmly, "the Research Institute will take 80% of the profit from the sales of this medicine while Damaris Group owns the remaining 20%. Jack couldn't help but chuckle. "Are you kidding me, Ms. Jarvis? Is that all the profit you're willing to share with us after Damaris Group contributed so much to this project?" Roxanne's eyes shone with determination. The Damaris family is a century-old prestigious family in the traditional medicine business, so you must be well aware of the rules in the pharmaceutical field. In fact, coming up with the core technology is the most important part of medical research and development. In the context of contribution, I'm confident our Research Institute poured in much more effort than Damaris Group. Jack turned to glance at Lucian and swiftly wrapped his mind around the situation. Evidently, that was the result of their discussion earlier. "You're such a humorous person, Ms. Jarvis. I came up with the idea in the first place. Besides, Damaris Group had been providing the medicinal herbs used by the research institution for free. Now that you've invented the medicine, you're turning your back on us, letting us take only a small part of the profit. If that's the case, I'm afraid Damaris Group will have to cease this collaboration with you." His face darkened, and his tone was filled with the indifference of a businessman. Jack's reaction was within their anticipation. Roxanne spoke in a gentler manner after sensing his fury. "Naturally, Damaris Group's cooperation is crucial in the success of inventing this medicine. If you aren't satisfied with my initial offer, I can proffer you another 5%, totaling Damaris Group's profit margin to 25%. That is the maximum extent of my sincerity." He sneered out loud. "Aren't you generous, Ms. Jarvis, offering me another 5% without hesitation? Do you think I'll agree to this?" She replied, "There's nothing I can do if you aren't willing to accept the deal. I will compensate Damaris Group with 3 times the market price for all the medicinal herbs you have provided the Research Institute. As for the distribution channel, I'll figure out an alternative." She was implying her readiness to end their collaboration as Jack had suggested. Jack laughed in exasperation. There isn't any price on the market that can match the demand for the Damaris family's medicinal herbs, as the herbs are only available for the Damaris family's internal use. "I think you're oversimplifying this matter, Ms. Jarvis." Roxanne frowned. "In that case, you can proffer a price you think is fair, and I'll accept it without any objection." She felt a little uneasy after saying that, as Jack might very likely make a significant demand on the division of profit following her statement. Nothing left to discuss. Roxanne is equipped with the technology, while the medicinal herbs provided by the Damaris family were only used to produce one batch of medicine. If you aren't satisfied with the profit division, that's fine. The financial gain from this batch of medicine manufactured using the medicinal herbs contributed by the Damaris family can be split according to your wish. Still, the research institute also has the right to only sign the contract with you for this batch of medicine only. At that point, Lucian talked slower. And that means after this batch of medicines is completely sold, Roxanne can still look for another medicinal herbs supplier to collaborate with her because she has the manufacturing technology. But what about Damaris Group? Are you able to find another research institute that can produce this medicine? His words blatantly expressed the research institute's dominance in that deal with Damaris Group. In short, Damaris Group wasn't Roxanne's only choice. In comparison, Damaris Group could only rely on Roxanne to produce the medicine. Hence, the research institute should have been the leading party in that cooperation from the beginning. As for Damaris Group, it became Jack's decision whether to choose a long-term, steady yield or a high amount of short-term profit. Jack didn't expect Lucian to make that move. He met the latter's eyes impassively while speaking to Roxanne. "Ms. Jarvis, are you sure you wish to discuss the terms of this collaboration with Damaris Group on a pure business paradigm? In your opinion, is Damaris Group just an existence you can toss aside after you achieve your goal? I think you haven't gotten a clear picture of the circumstances, Mr. Damaris," Lucian piped up. At the same time, he slightly leaned his body in Roxanne and Jack's direction while shifting his cold gaze onto Jack. She glanced at Lucian and he nodded at her. Subsequently, Roxanne braced herself and pursed her lips in silence, considering that a response to Jack's question. Lucian uttered righteously, "There are no friends when doing business. You should understand that concept better than Roxanne, Mr. Damaris. Profit division has always been the most crucial and demanding battle in the business field. Aren't you attempting to appeal to Roxanne's emotions with friendship and unscrupulously forcing her to concede now?" Jack's negotiating skills were significantly inferior to Lucian's. As a result, Jack's face became contorted in anger. A long silence later, he said stiffly, "I cannot accept this profit division arrangement." Lucian chimed in, "Perhaps I should let you see the profit division arrangement used by Farwell Group when we are in control of the technological aspect of a deal. Maybe you'll feel contented with the current offer after seeing the numbers." In other words, if Lucian were to take charge of the profit division matter entirely, the Damaris family's financial gain would only be reduced further. The friendly facade on Jack's countenance completely dissipated as he stared at them grimly. "If you can accept my offer, we'll sign the agreement now. If you aren't, our research institute is willing to hire a professional third party to evaluate Damaris Group's contributions in the early phase and compensate you at 10 times the price." Roxanne nudged the agreement toward him. Without taking one look at the contract, Jack tore it in half and tossed it back on the table. Roxanne was taken aback by his reaction. In the past, Jack had always shown his gentlemanly side to her. Not to mention, he was the heir to a prestigious family in the traditional medicine business, so she was under the assumption he would prioritize keeping up a polite and gentle appearance. Little did she anticipate he would do something as impulsive as that. The atmosphere inside the office abruptly turned tense. Jack said, "If I remember correctly, we agreed to share the patent and split the profit equally when we first decided to work together on this project. Now that you're casually altering the terms, I don't think there is room for further discussion." Roxanne replied with a frown, "You've also mentioned you would allow me access to medical books as a reference. I agreed to share the patent because of that." Refused to collaborate. Jack was stumped for words upon hearing that. A short pause later, he stood up from the couch and said, "If that's the case, there's nothing left for us to discuss." After saying that, Jack turned around and strode out of the office, slamming the door shut behind him. Roxanne's eyes were filled with shock as the thunderous boom rang in her ears. "Did that startle you?" Lucian said while walking to her side. Upon hearing his voice, Roxanne gradually returned to her senses and said in an emotional voice, "I'm fine. I just did not expect to see that side of Jack." Roxanne's response made Lucian's admiration for her grow. The man wrapped an arm around her shoulders and pulled her into his arms. Letting out a sigh, Roxanne said, "Are all businessmen that two-faced?" Lucian stroked her back reassuringly and replied, "Would you be scared if I'm like that too?" Roxanne fell silent while trying to imagine the tactics that Lucian would employ in the business arena. After a while, it dawned on her that she already knew Lucian's way of doing things like the back of her hand and had long accepted it. "Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised at all." Roxanne smiled. Lucian did not seem pleased with that answer. "Is that really who you think I am?" he asked. Roxanne pulled away from his embrace and met his eyes before explaining, "I just think you were very attractive when you analyzed the situation for me just now. It felt like your true self. If not for Lucian's ruthless ways and sharp business acumen, the Farwell family wouldn't be enjoying their current success. However, I didn't see any related medical book from you, and I ended up inventing this technology on my own. Naturally, I have no reason to share the patent with you." However, not only was Roxanne not afraid, but she was also hoping to learn from Lucian. Besides, what shocked her most about Jack was the savage way in which he tore apart the agreement and the vehemence of his reaction. She trusted that Lucian would never act in the same way. After hearing the woman's heartfelt praise for him, Lucian pulled her toward him and planted a gentle kiss on the back of her hand. "I think you're really adorable when you're being serious," he said in a deep voice. Roxanne smiled faintly and continued to express her true thoughts. "Actually, I was quite scared that Jack would turn violent when he was ripping up the agreement just now, but when I remembered that you're also here, I didn't feel that scared anymore." Looking at the woman with a deep gaze, Lucian promised solemnly, "I will always protect you." The two of them looked at each other and smiled. Seconds later, Roxanne started feeling troubled over the discussion with Jack earlier that had gone south. "I have already made a compromise, but it seemed like that was still not enough for the Damaris family. It's highly likely that they wouldn't want to proceed with the collaboration. It would be a problem for the research institute if that were really the case." Moreover, Roxanne had started doubting herself after Jack's questioning earlier. With a sense of unease, she asked Lucian nervously, "Did I really burn bridges by doing what I did just now?" But it was Jack who had come up with the idea previously. The man stroked Roxanne's head and said reassuringly, "The two of you had never agreed on that. It's clear that Jack had wanted to take advantage of you right from the start. Otherwise, he wouldn't have suggested an equal split of profits in the first place. It was a standard practice in the industry that the party who owned the technology would hold the majority share. It was impossible for Jack to be unaware of it. He had simply intended to exploit Roxanne, knowing that she was inexperienced in the area. After hearing that, Roxanne finally knew how clueless she was. With understanding dawning on her, she said, "So that means he might be trying to obtain confidential information when he stepped past me and tried to establish rapport with the employees previously." Pure intentions. Roxanne could not help but feel relieved at that realization. She was glad that she had kept her guard up against Jack the whole time. Also, luckily, I had asked for your advice earlier. Otherwise, it's very likely that I would have fallen into Jack's trap. The woman flashed a grateful smile at Lucian, who could not be happier that she had finally seen Jack's true colors. "You can consult me anytime you want. I won't charge you for it," Lucian said with a suggestive look in his eyes. A blush spread across Roxanne's cheeks when she realized what he meant, and she pushed him away at once. Looking at the woman's shy expression, Lucian smiled. Not wanting to embarrass her further, he changed the topic to something more serious. "It could be a good thing if Damaris Group really decides not to go ahead with the collaboration. Although it's true that their herbs are of a higher quality than what the others have in the market right now, those are, after all, still normal herbs without any special medicinal properties. Even without the Damaris family, the research institute can still acquire good quality herbs at a higher price from other medicinal herb companies to manufacture the drug. That way, the issue regarding the supply of herbs would be solved." The moment Lucian started discussing serious matters, Roxanne breathed a sigh of relief and listened attentively. As for sales channels, that's even less of a problem. Most medicinal herb companies have online sales platforms and a regular customer base. As long as you have a good product, people would naturally buy it. If you are still worried, I can get Farwell Group's technology department to build a specialized online medical sales platform for you." Roxanne was moved upon hearing that. It was well known that Farwell Group's technology team was one of the best in the world. Roxanne felt that it would be a waste of talent to get them to create the sales platform for her. She smiled at Lucian appreciatively and replied, "Got it. If Damaris Group refuses to accept our proposal, I will just look for another company to collaborate with." Lucian spoke again after that. "However, if the collaboration with the Damaris family fails, all the hard work that you've put into establishing a good relationship with them might go to waste." Taking a pause, he continued in a solemn tone, "I know that the reason you started joining those medical consultations was because of your interest in the Damaris family's ancient medical arts. If your relationship with them falls apart, all your efforts would come to naught." At the mention of her original intention for approaching the Damaris family, Roxanne fell into a slight daze. "But before that, I've always thought that their intentions were pure and that they truly cared about advancing medical treatment and care for patients." She had just recognized that the Damaris family was not as altruistic as she had thought in the face of profit. In fact, their business was way more commercialized than she had expected. Rubbing the back of Roxanne's hand, Lucian said casually, "If you think it's a pity, you can always make a further compromise. You would just be making less money." You can treat it as paying tuition fees to the Damaris family. Just let me know if you need extra funding for the research. Even though Roxanne was still feeling upset over the fact that the Damaris family was not who she had imagined them to be, she could not help but be amused by the man's words. What do you take me for? I'm indeed very curious about the Damaris family's ancient medical arts, but I've also found out that their medical skills are not omnipotent in this period of time. Truth is, all of us possess different capabilities. If I really don't get to learn from them, I can further advance my own skills, which might be even better. Just like the first time after another round of discussions, both of them decided that they could give in more. Roxanne then sent Jack a message, indicating to him that she was willing to give up 3% more. If Damaris Group found it unacceptable, they would have no choice but to cancel the collaboration. However, she didn't receive a response despite waiting for a long time. Since it was noon and there was nothing much to do, Lucian decided to take Roxanne out for lunch. Seemingly to make up for the disappointment last time, Lucian made reservations for Horrington's Best restaurant, where he ordered the couple's set on purpose. Upon their arrival, both of them were ushered to their table by 2 members of the staff. "Sir, I'm sorry, but we have run out of the drinks for the couple's set. May I know if you would like to switch to a different one or have a refund?" the waitress asked upon confirming their orders. Roxanne was surprised to learn that Lucian had ordered the couple's set. She hadn't expected him to do something as childish as that. Nonetheless, Lucian handed her the menu with an emotionless face. "Why don't you choose your own drink? Feel free to order more food, as I don't think the food included in the set is enough." Roxanne was too shy to maintain eye contact with him, so she pretended to calmly skim through the menu upon receiving it. The waitress couldn't help but comment, "Both of you look like a good match. You must have a wonderful relationship." Roxanne looked up at Lucian and continued with a serious expression, "Besides, I'm responsible for the benefits of the staff at the Research Institute. I have to make sure that they get what they deserve for their hard work and not shortchange them because of my personal motives." While Lucian simply smiled in response, the embarrassed Roxanne kept her head down in silence. When the waitress saw their reaction, a sudden realization struck her. "Oh my God, it's Mr. Farwell and his ex-wife. They were the talk of the internet some time ago. Both of them look so much better in real life compared to their photos. Mr. Farwell is so handsome when he smiles, while his ex-wife is such a gentle person. And here they are, ordering a couple's menu. If it wasn't for Aubrey Pearson, both of them wouldn't have divorced all those years ago. I'm done ordering." Oblivious to what was going through the waitress' mind, Roxanne broke into a friendly smile when she saw the strange look on the former's face. After taking the menu back in her hands, the waitress tried hard to maintain her composure as she turned around in awe. "The ex-wife is so elegant and dazzling when she smiles. I'm surprised that someone so stunning actually exists." Roxanne felt a little strange when she noticed the waitress walking away awkwardly. Nevertheless, she didn't think much of it as she turned her attention to Lucian. "Weren't we supposed to have a casual lunch?" Why, Lucian's eyes glistened with affection. "I didn't really know where to go, but after checking Instagram, I decided to take you here since this place seems to be popular with couples." Roxanne was touched by the look in his eyes. Even though their children had grown up, she was still mesmerized by the man she was staring at. It felt just like how she had fallen in love with him the very first time. It's my fault that we missed out a lot 6 years ago. I want to try my best to make it up to you. In a deep voice, Lucian explained, even though I promised to pursue you again earlier, the amount of effort I've put in was pathetic. Come to think of it now, the reason you refused my marriage proposal might be because of my inadequate actions. Therefore, all I can do now is work harder. As Roxanne's eyes sparkled at his words, she felt the sudden urge to correct him. However, after giving it some thought, she figured that the real reason she rejected the marriage proposal was obvious to both of them. I will not forget your presence during lunch. Lucian worked hard to prove himself. He kept showering Roxanne with cringy sweet nothings, causing her to relish in the attention while feeling embarrassed at the same time. Enter title. Once they were done with their food, the waitress brought them some desserts. These are on the house. We wish both of you a long and loving relationship. Seeing that, Roxanne thanked her. Out of coincidence, there were 3 portions of the desserts. I wonder what the children are doing right now. Essie loves tiramisu. Roxanne couldn't help but think of her 3 kids. Lucian replied, they're probably having their afternoon break right now. If you're worried about them, we can drop by the kindergarten to check and bring them these desserts. The thought of being able to see the children filled Roxanne with delight. You took the words out of my mouth. With that, both of them got the service staff to pack the desserts before heading off to the kindergarten. As they had given Pippa advance notice, they arrived to see her entering the break room with the children in tow. Daddy, Mommy. Although the 3 kids were thrilled to see their parents, they kept their voices down in consideration of the other children who were napping. Smiling at the sight of the children, Roxanne took her leave from Pippa before bringing the children back to their car. Mommy, what brings you here? Estella's eyes lit up the moment she saw the tiramisu. As Roxanne opened it up for her attentively, she gave the latter's hair a tousle. While we were out having lunch, the restaurant gave us these complimentary desserts. Cognizant that Lucian was just saying all that to excuse his behavior, Roxanne didn't expose him. We decided to bring them to you since these are your favorite. Once you've finished, you can go back to your nap. Meanwhile, Lucian had unpacked the desserts for Archie and Benny. Then, the 3 children wolfed the tiramisu down happily. After giving Roxanne and Lucian a look each, Benny narrowed his eyes thoughtfully. You have a good eye, Daddy. The cake is delicious. Lucian cocked a brow slightly. We'll buy it more often since you like it so much. Thanks, Daddy. Benny expressed his gratitude in his childish voice. As both of them chatted happily, Roxanne didn't even get the chance to join in. Do you still have any classes in the afternoon? Lucian asked despite knowing the answer. His father's intention wasn't lost upon Archie. There's a group activity in the afternoon which Ms. Ward says that we can't miss. Clueless as to where Lucian was going with the question, Roxanne was about to inquire when the former lamented, I wanted to take all of you to the movies. But now, it's a shame you have an activity to attend instead. His words jolted Roxanne into wondering if she had made a mistake. Since when did I agree to go to the movies with him? I have to. She planned to return to the office in the afternoon. With a face brimming with anticipation, Estella gave Roxanne's sleeve a tug. "Mommy, I want some new clothes. Remember to get me some." Faced with Estella's twinkling eyes, Roxanne couldn't bring herself to say no. "Daddy, Archie's and my computers need upgrading too." Benny's eyes glistened mischievously as he seized upon the opportunity to commit daylight robbery. Lucian couldn't help but smile. "I know. I won't forget your presents." Thereafter, the children gave Roxanne looks that brimmed with anticipation. Roxanne was left with no choice but to agree. "Remember to watch yourselves during the event. There will be no presents for you if you get hurt." Her agreement filled the children with jubilation. Dreaming of her after the children finished their desserts, Roxanne led them back into the kindergarten. When she returned to the car and saw Lucian's nonchalant expression, she couldn't resist asking, "Since when did I agree to go to the movies with you in the afternoon?" Throwing her a glance, Lucian replied matter-of-factly, "I'm sorry that I took the liberty to decide on your behalf. Otherwise, you wouldn't have agreed." Having her exact thoughts read, Roxanne averted her gaze. She could roughly guess that from Lucian's perspective, the entire day was meant to be a date. However, it just felt too sudden for her. When she didn't say anything in reply, Lucian's eyes darkened. "We can watch it another day if you're upset about it. As for the children's gifts, I'll get them in the afternoon." Detecting the disappointment in his voice, Roxanne quickly shook her head with a smile. "It's not that. I just thought that I should have dressed up for the occasion." No sooner had the words left her mouth than Lucian gave her an affectionate look. "That's not necessary. You always look gorgeous to me." His romantic words caused Roxanne's cheeks to blush. "Even the waitress couldn't stop gawking at you earlier," Lucian teased as he started driving. Roxanne retorted, "You're the one she was ogling at. I didn't even put on any makeup today." On working days, she would wear little to no makeup and dress as simply as possible. If it wasn't for Lucian, she would probably not be allowed into the restaurant earlier. In response to her complaint, Lucian teased her back, "Are you jealous, Ms. Jarvis?" Looking out the window, Roxanne caught her breath when she heard the words. When she remained silent, the smiling Lucian stopped pulling her leg and continued driving instead. "The movie is in the evening, so let's go shopping for the children's gifts first." Roxanne nodded in agreement. After parking their car, both of them took the elevator into the mall. As they walked into the building, Roxanne couldn't help but recall how Lucian coaxed her into buying matching outfits together with Estella the last time. Just as Lucian was about to get her opinion about something, he noticed the distracted look on her face and asked, "What's on your mind?" Regaining her senses, Roxanne broke into a melancholic smile. "The last time we were here, Essie and I bought matching outfits. Back then, I was aware of your relationship with her, and Essie wanted a mother. However, I didn't tell her about it because I assumed that you had abandoned her. All I could do was help her fulfill her wish, and fortunately, you were kind enough to play along." Lucian spoke in a regretful tone as he finished her sentence candidly. The mention of Estella's history triggered a sense of sorrow in Roxanne. "There's no way I could ever cast her aside. Throughout the years, I've been yearning for her even in my dreams." Furrowing her brows, she raised her gaze to look at Lucian. I wonder who it was that was so cruel to break us, mother and daughter, apart. This same person caused me to believe that Essie died the day she was born. When he saw the pain and hatred in Roxanne's eyes, Lucian pulled her into his embrace as he consoled her. I was under the wrong impression all this while. Now that I know the truth, I'll do my best to find that person. Finally, Roxanne managed to calm down when she sensed Lucian's steady breath. Which one do you want? If I knew this place would remind you of the past, I would have brought you to a different mall. Lucian's eyes brimmed with regret. Once Roxanne calmed down, she slowly came out of his embrace while wearing a smile. I was just a little sad but am fine now. Now that Essie and I have been reunited, I'll make up for everything that I failed to give her. Nodding slightly, Lucian grabbed her hand and clasped her fingers so tightly that she couldn't leave. Me too. I'll double my efforts in making it up to all of you. The conviction in his eyes moved Roxanne and broadened the smile on her face. As there was still time to spare before the movie, both of them went window shopping level by level. When they arrived at the entrance of a men's boutique, Roxanne stopped subconsciously when she saw the outfits inside. Noticing that it was a men's boutique upon trailing her gaze, Lucian suddenly felt upset. Who are you buying them for? I know all the men in her life, while I'm standing right beside her. So, who is she intending to buy an outfit for? As his voice jolted her back to her senses, Roxanne turned to look at him. The moment their eyes met, Lucian saw bliss gradually take over the regret in her eyes. Moved by the sight, he felt a growing sense of affection melt away his initial displeasure. With a slight curl to her lips, Roxanne explained softly, "Do you know that 6 years ago, I would imagine you wearing those clothes each time I pass by a men's boutique while shopping?" Roxanne gushed like a schoolgirl when she brought the matter up. Throwing the mannequin in the shop window a glance, she spoke confidently. "I feel that you'll look better than the mannequin in that outfit." Watching how Roxanne was reminiscing about the past, Lucian suddenly felt as if he was lost in time, causing him to tighten his grip on her hand. Stung by the sudden pain, Roxanne knitted her brows quizzically. Just when she was about to ask Lucian what happened, he dragged her inside the boutique. "Hello, how may I help you? Feel free to let me know what you're looking for, and I'll do my best to provide recommendations." When the sales attendant saw the distinguished couple walk in, she welcomed them warmly. Realizing that Lucian was holding her hand tightly in public, the embarrassed Roxanne tried to struggle free, but the former would have none of it. With a slight curl to her lips, Roxanne explained softly, "Do you know that 6 years ago, I would imagine you wearing those clothes each time I pass by a men's boutique while shopping? You have a good figure, so there's no need to be particular about the cut. These are our most popular designs this season. You're welcome to try them on if you like." The sales attendant showed off the outfits politely. However, Lucian turned to Roxanne and asked in a deep voice, "Which one do you want me to try?" His words briefly stunned the sales attendant. Holding her tongue prudently, she walked to Roxanne's side upon learning who the decision-maker was. "You're really blessed to have a husband who takes your fashion advice. It's clear that you have a keen eye for both men and clothes alike." The sales attendant's flattery naturally pleased Lucian. As for Roxanne, she was still lost in a daze. "Is Lucian trying to make it up to me because of what I said earlier?" She had no doubt he would keep his word but was still surprised by the granularity of his actions, where a casual yet melancholic mention elicited a response from him. "Bring me what the mannequins are wearing in my size. I want to try them," Lucian answered on the tongue-tied Roxanne's behalf. Gifts only then did Roxanne return to her senses. The sales attendant smiled and said, "I don't think that's necessary. You have the same figure as the mannequin. If you don't mind, you can just try on those clothes." In response, Lucian turned around to seek Roxanne's opinion as though he were seeking his wife's approval. Seeing that, the sales attendant followed suit and waited for Roxanne's response respectfully. Roxanne only realized what was going on seconds later. When she did, she flashed a faint smile and nodded. The sales attendant then quickly went to fetch the clothes and ask another sales attendant to bring Lucian to the fitting room before leading Roxanne to browse the rest of the outfits in the store. As they were browsing, the sales attendant introduced all the premium suits to Roxanne and paid attention to the time Roxanne took to inspect each suit. Soon, Lucian came walking out of the fitting room in a grey shirt and a black suit. Needless to say, he looked dashing. Before he even checked himself out in the mirror, he went straight to Roxanne and asked, "How does this look? Does it suit me?" At that moment, Roxanne was still browsing around with the sales attendant. She then turned around the second she heard Lucian's voice. At that very second, Roxanne was mesmerized. Although it has been so many years, it seems like Lucian hasn't changed one bit. In fact, he looks even more attractive now. I can't take my eyes off him. Is it not as good as you expected it to be? With a frown and a helpless expression on his face, Lucian turned around to ask the staff to bring him something else. Only then did Roxanne snap back to her senses and praised with a smile, "You look even more handsome than I imagined. The clothes suit you." The sales attendant next to her chimed in, "Sir, the suit fits you like a glove." Upon getting praised by Roxanne, Lucian nodded in satisfaction and said to the staff, "Please wrap this up. I'm going to try on the others." In other words, he wanted to try on all the clothes the sales attendant had brought over to him. "Are you going on a shopping spree?" Roxanne was surprised by those words. "Lucian's closet is filled to the brim. Why is he buying so many? Didn't you say you wanted to see me in these?" "I'll try on all of them," Lucian answered matter-of-factly. Roxanne merely stared at the person in front of her blankly because she was so touched that she was at a loss for words. The sales attendant then brought a few more suits forward and said to Lucian, "When I was browsing with your lady just now, she seemed to have an interest in these few pieces. Is it not as good as you expected it to be?" With a frown and a helpless expression on his face, Lucian turned around to ask the staff to bring him something else. Roxanne turned toward the sales attendant when she heard that. "Well, those few pieces really caught my attention just now. I didn't say anything though, did I?" How did the sales attendant know? Upon noticing Roxanne's confusion, the sales attendant smiled sweetly and uttered, "You spent more time looking at these few pieces just now." As soon as those words fell, Lucian spoke before Roxanne could respond. He said, "You're a talented salesperson." With that, Lucian nodded at the staff and said, "Please wrap all of these up." Realizing that they were dealing with a big customer, the two sales attendants were over the moon. However, they kept their emotions to themselves. Roxanne couldn't help but feel troubled when she saw the bags of clothes. Lucian saw the odd look on her face and asked caringly, "What's the matter? Don't you like them?" Roxanne shook her head and approached him before whispering awkwardly, "All these clothes are beyond my budget." In response, Lucian lifted his brow in confusion. As soon as he figured out what she meant, he smiled and replied, "These clothes are mine. Why would I want you to pay?" Roxanne then frowned and protested, "I want to buy them for you, though. What's the matter? Don't you like them?" Not enough. Just as she finished talking, Roxanne turned to cast the sales attendant nearby an embarrassed glance. Naturally, the sales attendant heard what Roxanne said, but she merely smiled politely at her without saying a word. Lucian had an affectionate look in his eyes when he saw Roxanne getting anxious. A few moments later, the staff approached them with the wrapped-up clothes. Lucian took the bags and said to Roxanne, "I'll pay for these." "You'll just have to pay for the suit I'm wearing, Roxanne." With that, he smiled and waited for Roxanne's reply. 6 years ago, Roxanne regretted not buying clothes for Lucian. Since he was giving her a chance to make it up to him, she readily agreed. Lucian wanted to continue trying on the other clothes, but Roxanne immediately stopped him. "That's enough." Roxanne then glanced at the sales attendant embarrassingly before whispering, "You'll still have to wear the ones in the bags. We can check them out by then." Lucian seemed dissatisfied after not being able to try on the clothes for Roxanne there and then. He only nodded after plunging into silent contemplation for a moment. The couple then went to the counter. After exiting the men's boutique, Lucian wanted to take Roxanne to shop for her clothes. "You've already bought so many for me," Roxanne rejected his offer hastily. "I don't know when did Lucian shop for me, but when I arrived at the Farwell residence, half of the clothes in the closet happened to be mine. Those clothes are new, and they seem expensive." Roxanne was accustomed to performing experiments in her white coat. Hence, she wasn't used to wearing colorful and fancy clothes. "I don't need that many. I only need a couple of gowns in the closet," she said. In response, Lucian hugged her from behind and whispered into her ear, "You don't need much now, but I think you're going to need more as Mrs. Farwell." It was safe to say that Lucian could only use gifts to make up for the damage he had done 6 years ago. Also, that was the only way he could show the public his love for Roxanne. Furthermore, having her wear all the clothes he bought for her was a way to show the world she was his woman. Sensing his insistence, Roxanne couldn't bring herself to refuse him again. "I've only worn a few pieces of clothing in the closet. If he were to buy me more, it would really be a waste of money." Lucian held her hand and brought her upstairs to shop for her clothes without leaving her any room for argument. Comparably, it was a lot easier when it came to buying clothes for Roxanne. Lucian merely glanced at the clothing in the store and made his decision decisively. He didn't even need Roxanne to try on the clothes he picked out for her. Instead, he told the staff to wrap up all the new arrivals and send them to his car. Since they still had time on their hands, they continued shopping for the kids. It was easy to shop for Archie and Benny. Again, Lucian bought the latest Apple and added on all sorts of accessories. Estella's clothes, on the other hand, were hand-picked by Roxanne. Initially, Lucian thought it would be enough to buy Estella a couple of pieces of clothing. However, Roxanne felt she needed to make it up to Estella for those years she missed out on her life. Since I can buy things for her now, I should do whatever needs to be done to make her happy. Besides, Essie would have fewer clothes than me if we were to only buy a couple of pieces for her. How could I let that happen? Watching us, Roxanne and Lucian practically went into all the stores in the mall. Meanwhile, Sean was sitting at a table by the window in a restaurant neither Roxanne nor Lucian paid attention to. With a meaningful look in his eyes, Sean was watching the couple intently. If I remember correctly, the woman next to Lucian is the legendary Roxanne Jarvis. Isn't she Lucian's ex-wife? Suddenly, a man approached Sean respectfully and sat down opposite him. Sean turned toward the man and asked in a deep voice, "What have you found? Who exactly is that woman?" Sean's assistant whipped out a document and handed it to Sean. Based on the investigation, Lucian's ex-wife suddenly left him 6 years ago. She only returned to the country recently, but shortly after her return, she had already gotten entangled with Lucian. Besides, it seems like Lucian has been pestering her, the assistant reported. A sparkle of mischief glimmered in Sean's eyes when he heard those words, and he stared morosely at Roxanne, who was nearby. Her? She isn't too shabby, but there are plenty of beautiful girls around Lucian. Why is Lucian pestering her? Indeed, Lucian didn't seem like a man who would be all over a girl. Ms. Jarvis is Harvey Lambert's finest disciple. After she returned to the country, she became a person in charge at one of Harvey's research institutes and took up quite a few projects. Besides, she stole the limelight during the Damaris family's medical consultation. She has great accomplishments in the medical field, the assistant elaborated. As soon as those words fell, Sean narrowed his eyes and cast Roxanne a scrutinizing gaze. It sounds like this woman is definitely more capable than Aubrey. With that in mind, Sean licked his lips excitedly and looked at Roxanne curiously. I wonder what this woman tastes like. Wait. She has a few kids with Lucian, right? I'm not interested in going after something Lucian has used. Sean retracted his gaze from Roxanne and asked his assistant, what else? The assistant hesitated for a moment before answering in an uncertain tone, I heard that Ms. Jarvis' Research Institute is currently working with Damaris Group. They seem to have jointly developed a special drug for cancer treatment, which has already achieved significant results. I can't be sure because the information is confidential. However, if what I heard is true, the drug is going to be the world's first. Hence, they're going to get filthy rich. Just as he ended his sentence, the assistant saw his superior smiling meaningfully. In response, the assistant cast Sean a confused look. Sean's eyes were filled with mockery when he said, I was wondering if Mr. Farwell would really fall head over heels for a woman. But now, that's clearly not the case. Mr. Farwell is just taking advantage of that woman so that he can take control of the new drug. With Farwell Group's current capability, they'll surely monopolize the market for the new drug. By then, I'm sure the company is going to make a fortune. Realization dawned on the assistant after he heard what Sean said. That's the difference between me and the rich men. These men are all dating to make money. No wonder I'm still not one of them. Sean retracted his gaze after he watched Lucian and Roxanne exit the children's clothing store and enter the elevator. I've seen enough. Let's go. It's time to make our moves, he said to his assistant. The assistant instantly knew what Sean meant and hummed an acknowledgement. The two men then left the restaurant, one after another. At the same time, Roxanne was frowning and trying hard to recall what happened when she was shopping moments prior. Lucian saw the strange look on her face, so he asked caringly, "Are you feeling exhausted?" Roxanne shook her head and cast Lucian an uneasy look. "I felt someone was watching us earlier." A movie date. Lucian slightly furrowed his brows and glanced at his phone. Nothing seems to be going on. "Are you sure?" he asked Roxanne. Roxanne hesitated before shaking her head. "Maybe it was just my imagination. Now that I think about it, I don't think anything weird has happened." Lucian embraced her and reassured her in a deep voice, "If you feel something is wrong, tell me. Don't be afraid. I'm with you, and I'll never let anything bad happen to you." In response, Roxanne smiled and leaned against his chest. Soon, the elevator arrived at the top floor of the mall, and Lucian brought Roxanne into the movie theater. Roxanne thought they had to go to the counter to get their tickets. However, she saw Lucian walking straight toward the entrance of the movie hall and said something to the usher before turning back to wait for her. She froze for a few seconds before she followed behind him. "Don't we need to get tickets?" The usher nearby smiled and explained, "This gentleman has already booked an entire movie hall for the evening. Please inform us whenever you wish to start watching the movie." Once again, Roxanne was stunned. Before she could regain her senses, Lucian had already led her into the movie hall. Obviously, they were the only ones in the hall. The moment they sat down, the staff started serving them drinks and snacks. One of them even asked the couple if they were ready to start watching the movie. Instead of answering the question, Lucian glanced at Roxanne and signaled to the staff to ask her for her opinion. In an instant, Roxanne felt as though she had just teleported back to the men's boutique. Fortunately for her, the staff wasn't as enthusiastic and talkative as the sales attendant in the boutique. In an awkward tone, she said, "Please start the movie now." The staff nodded and left the movie hall. Moments later, the screen in the movie hall lit up, and the movie started playing. Before noon, Roxanne didn't even know they were going to a movie, let alone what movie Lucian would take her to see. Therefore, she was filled with anticipation when she saw the movie's opening sequence. Meanwhile, Lucian was staring at her intently to find out if she liked it. Apparently, it was a romance film with a medical theme. Although Roxanne appreciated Lucian's gesture for picking such a film, she couldn't help but feel less interested after seeing the theme of the movie. "If you don't like it, I can get them to change the movie." Lucian's voice sounded beside her ears. "That's not necessary. Let's just watch it." Roxanne returned to her senses and smiled. "It has been such a wonderful date. I wouldn't want to ruin it for Lucian." At the same time, she was also keeping something else from him to protect his feelings. Now that he has reserved the entire movie hall, it lacks the atmosphere of a proper movie date. The movie started, and Roxanne was watching the movie and talking to Lucian about the scenes that involved medical knowledge. Naturally, Lucian was listening to her intently. Roxanne didn't know if the scenes were too foolish or if she was influenced by how Lucian was listening attentively to her explanations, but she felt annoyed as the movie went on. "What is all this? Why is the movie spreading false medical information? Are they trying to fool the public? Frustrated, Roxanne gave up explaining and clarifying the scenes. Instead, she just munched on the popcorn. Although the movie is bad, the popcorn is amazing. After the movie, they went to their car and drove home. When they were on their way home, Lucian asked in a puzzled tone, "Did the movie show a lot of mistakes? If needed, I can either pull it from release or pay the director to shoot the movie all over again." "Did Daddy take care of you?" Roxanne was merely annoyed while watching the film earlier. Now that they exited the movie theater, she thought she was blowing things out of proportion earlier. "No, it's just that my occupational disease is acting up." It's good enough that the plot of the movie was well defined. There's no need to dwell on such minor details. Lucian, however, still seemed a little apologetic. "I thought you'd like such genres. I'll change to something else next time." As if a sudden thought popped into her head, Roxanne teased, "Then let's watch something related to trade wars next time. I look forward to Mr. Farwell giving me a lesson too." Lucian's eyes darkened upon seeing how she had taken the initiative to joke with him. Without hesitation, he agreed, "Sure. I'll accompany you as long as you want." His decisiveness left Roxanne feeling somewhat guilty. "Well, forget it. Once is enough for such an unpleasant experience. Let's change to something unrelated to our profession next time." At that, Lucian lifted his gaze and glanced at her through the rear-view mirror. As their eyes met, they shared a smile. It was already 9 at night when they arrived back at the manor. The two headed inside the mansion with multiple bags in their hands. Meanwhile, the three kids, who had been home since Caden sent them back earlier, had their minds focused on their gifts and waited patiently for the entire night. The moment Lucian and Roxanne stepped into the house, the kids flocked toward them excitedly. "Daddy! Mommy!" With Lucian carrying almost all of the bags, Roxanne, with her empty hands, bent down and rubbed the kids' heads adoringly with a smile. "Have you all been good at home? Did you all listen to Ms. Catalina?" The kids exclaimed in unison, "Of course, we are. We even helped Ms. Catalina prepare meals." The smile on Roxanne's face grew wider when she heard those words. "Mommy, where are the presents for us?" Benny stared at Roxanne expectantly, to which she lifted her head and directed her gaze toward Lucian. In response, he gave Benny's chubby cheeks a pinch before he gestured with his chin and remarked, "They're on the couch. Go and open them yourselves." Sounds of cheers erupted among the three kids, and they scampered toward the couch at once. Within seconds, the stuff on the couch turned into a mess because of the kids rummaging. Roxanne had no choice but to go over and help them out. "Yay! It's the latest apple!" Benny's eyes were sparkling as he shared his joy with Archie enthusiastically. At that point, Archie had also found his present. It was the same as Benny's but in a different color. Like Benny, Archie was also immensely thrilled. Not forgetting to express his gratitude, he turned behind to look at Lucian and said, "Thank you, Daddy and Mommy." Lucian nodded lightly. "I'm glad that you all like it. Wow! So many dresses! I love them." Estella's soft and adorable voice rang out from one side. With an eyebrow quirked, Lucian looked at Estella and said, "Mommy specially picked them for you." Estella endearingly wrapped her arms around Roxanne's neck and planted her lips on the latter's cheek. "Thank you, Mommy. I love Mommy the most." Estella's sweet and lovely behavior instantly made Roxanne's heart melt into mush. "I love you too, Essie. Mommy, did Daddy take good care of you today?" Estella asked with a straight face, almost as though she was ready to reprimand Lucian right away if Roxanne gave no as her answer. To that, Roxanne and Lucian exchanged glances. The man was undoubtedly amused. "This little girl is now trying to poke her nose in my matters, hey?" Nonetheless, after thinking carefully about it, Lucian figured that Estella was on Roxanne's side and ultimately did not say anything. Instead, he even put on a cooperative posture. "He has been taking great care of me." The imposing presence of the father and daughter duo left Roxanne torn between amusement and exasperation. Without a choice, she could only coax Estella first while she reproachfully glared at Lucian. "Glad that you know." Lucian met Roxanne's gaze calmly. An accusatory look danced past his eyes, almost like he wanted to tell on her. Roxanne retracted her gaze in annoyance and leaned over to carry Estella up. "Come on. I'll bring you upstairs to try on the dresses." Estella reached out and held onto Roxanne tightly. Just as the two turned and strode toward the stairs, a commotion resounded from upstairs. "You guys better be careful. Don't break or drop anything." Sonia's slightly displeased voice rang in everyone's ears. Puzzled, Roxanne lifted her gaze, only to find several housekeepers moving many bags down under Catalina's instructions while Sonia followed behind, with displeasure written all over her face. When Sonia saw Lucian, Roxanne, and the kids downstairs, her expression darkened even more. Roxanne carefully put Estella back on the couch, then whipped her head around to look at Lucian with a questioning look, seemingly asking him what the situation was about. Lucian shifted his gaze onto Sonia and asked, "Mom, why are you moving back at such a late time? Can't you move back tomorrow?" Sonia responded with a cold snort. "I bet you can't wait for me to move out. I'm just an eyesore to all of you here." After saying all that, she swept her gaze across the bags of gifts on the couch. As she spotted several bags with familiar brand packaging, she immediately shot Roxanne a ferocious glare. "All these are new clothing. Lucian must have paid for everything. This woman bears to let my son fork out so much money when they aren't even married. Wouldn't things only become worse in the future?" 5. Sonia's burning gaze was so intense Roxanne could sense it, but her voice stuck in her throat. Fortunately, Lucian stood up for her and explained, "Roxanne bought me many clothes. I'm gifting her a few pieces in return." A tinge of guilt rose within Roxanne when she heard the man's explanation. "I only bought him the shirt that he's wearing right now. How did he make it sound like I've bought him everything here?" Of course, Sonia did not believe her son's words, but she did not say more and merely let out a derisive snort as she did not want to waste her breath arguing with him. "It's not like I've followed behind the two of you. How will I know who fork out money to buy all this stuff? You two can say whatever pleases you, isn't it?" Finishing her sentence, she returned her gaze to the housekeepers and ordered, "Hurry up. You all will hold up Mr. and Mrs. Farwell's rest time if this drags on any longer." As much as Sonia had used Mrs. Farwell to address her, Roxanne could tell that the former was merely trying to be sarcastic. At the same time, she was also attributing her moving out to Roxanne. As that realization dawned upon Roxanne, her expression changed drastically. Then again, considering that Sonia was about to move out, she did not make a scene and instead went up to Sonia and attempted to grab the bag from her. "Mrs. Farwell, let me carry it for you." Sonia avoided her hand in exaggeration. "How will I dare trouble you to do something like this? Lucian will probably throw me out of the Farwell main residence if I were to do that." Roxanne's body stiffened almost instantly. Sensing Sonia's hostility, the three kids quickly rushed to Roxanne to protect her. Sonia threw a quick look at Estella and snickered coldly. "Estella doesn't even acknowledge me as her grandmother now. I wonder if I still have a say in this household." Unable to hold it in any more, Roxanne said, "Don't say that, Mrs. Farwell. As long as I haven't gotten your approval, I will remain an outsider to the Farwell family. So, there's no doubt you have the final say in this household. If there is anyone who doesn't have a say here, that person will definitely be me. Glad you know that. Don't you dare assume I'm leaving because I'm afraid of you." Roxanne pursed her lips without saying another word. "Do not take them to heart. Why did you come out?" Upon seeing that Lucian had followed her out, Sonia thought that he wanted to apologize to her. After all, it was truly ridiculous for him to give her the boot when she was his mother. However, Lucian merely took the bag from her hand and placed it into the car for her. Then, he turned and regarded her in displeasure. "I've told you that Roxanne is the wife I want. I hope you'll respect her accordingly, if only for my sake. I believe she also wishes for harmony in this family from the depths of her heart." His blatantly censuring tone made Sonia so livid that her face flushed bright red. "You want me to respect her? Who's going to respect me, then? My son kicked me out of the house late at night because of her, yet I've still got to pander to her." A frown marred Lucian's countenance. "You've been living perfectly fine at the Farwell main residence, but you've just got to come to the manor and interfere in our lives. Besides, I merely suggested that you move back to the main residence. You were the one who chose to do so at this hour." In truth, he was very much surprised that his mother would move out of the manor in the middle of the night. Little had he expected that she would even use it as a pretext to pick fault with Roxanne. "How could you talk to me like this because of that woman?" Disbelief was written clearly in Sonia's eyes. At that, Lucian's expression darkened further. "She has a name. Don't refer to her in such a manner any more henceforth. The same goes for the boys." With his brows tightly scrunched together, Lucian went up to pat her shoulders affectionately before following Sonia out. Sonia gaped at her son before her, a myriad of emotions brewing in her eyes. "Over the years, he'd never treated me like this, not even when I forced him to fulfill the marriage agreement between him and Aubrey. Now that Roxanne is back, it's as though he has turned into an entirely different person. Not only does he have the guts to talk back against me but also admonishes me. Then, there's Essie. In the past, she was greatly attached to me. Now, however, she's also clinging to that woman. Ha! I reckon that woman must have bespelled both my son and granddaughter that they're perpetually taking her side." As her thoughts went in that direction, her temper spiked. When she again recalled that Roxanne's pile of branded clothes was all bought with the Farwell family's money, distress and vexation swamped her. You should set off now since you've decided to leave tonight itself. It's late. After having made his stance clear, Lucian gentled his voice and opened the car door for her. Sonia shot him a hard glare in fury but ultimately said nothing. Fine, I'll put up with it today. But I'll never allow that woman to marry into the Farwell family easily. Drive safe, Lucian said to the driver. The driver murmured in acquiescence. Subsequently, he drove away slowly. Lucian watched until the car disappeared from his line of sight before whirling around and going back into the mansion. Right then, Roxanne was sitting in the living room with the 3 children while Catalina explained the chain of events that day to her at the side. Catalina had no idea what had happened either. As soon as Sonia returned that day, the woman clamored about going back to the Farwell main residence and ordered Catalina to have someone help pack her luggage. It went without saying that Catalina dared not defy her. While helping to pack her luggage, she listened to her veiled slurs. Mrs. Farwell has left. At the sight of Lucian coming back into the house, Roxanne put that question to him. Dipping his head a fraction, Lucian waved a hand at Catalina in dismissal. The latter promptly grasped his meaning and left. I was the one who told my mother to go back. She dragged her feet for 2 days, so I thought she didn't want to do so. Join our Facebook and WhatsApp group for more updates, link is given in description. Rest audiobook will be continued in next episode.